flies. The applause was still echoing off the chandeliers when Princess Luna felt something brush her hand. She thought it was just another well-wisher trying to get her attention. Tonight's charity dinner always brought out the eager ones, but when she looked down, a folded scrap of paper sat beneath her fingertips. The servant who'd slipped it to her didn't get a chance to say a word. His knees buckled, the tray he carried crashed to the floor, and the entire ballroom seemed to freeze at once. Luna dropped to her knees beside him. His eyes were open and glazed over. She unfolded the note with shaking fingers. Your crown was stolen once. Tonight it will be stolen again. Her stomach tightened. Around her, nobles whispered behind jeweled hands, already spinning their own stories. The guards surged forward, yelling commands, but Luna barely heard them. The servant's hand was curled around a small wooden token, smooth and carved, with a symbol she recognized but couldn't place. A crescent moon crossed with a rising sun. Your Highness, step back, Captain Aldrich said, guiding her away. He's been poisoned. Poison at a charity dinner meant to support children who had nothing. Luna felt a bitter taste rise in her throat as she ordered, "No one leaves." Her voice surprised even herself. While the guards surveyed the area, Luna slipped the token into her pocket and walked out before anyone could stop her. The servants' quarters were tucked beneath the kitchens. Luna had never been down here. The realization stung. Thomas. That was the name carved into the wooden plaque on the door. His room was small but tidy. A cot, a trunk, a candle burning low. On the wall hung a faded tapestry with the same symbol as the token. Luna stepped closer, tracing the threads with her fingertips. This wasn't some random carving. It meant something. She opened the trunk. Inside were neatly folded clothes, a few books, and a bundle of letters tied with twine. She read the top one. We are close. The truth will be known. The rightful line will rise again. Her pulse quickened. Rightful line? The note's warning suddenly felt heavier. She needed answers. Master Corvin, the palace historian, nearly dropped the scroll he was holding when Luna stormed into his tower. Where did you get that? He asked, staring at the token in her hand. From a servant who died tonight, Luna said. Tell me what it is. Corvin's face drained of color. Your Highness, that symbol belongs to the House of Solmer. Who? The original rulers of this land, he whispered, before your family. Luna felt the air leave her lungs. That's impossible. Corvin shook his head. 3 centuries ago, your ancestors led a coup. They seized the throne and forced the Solmer family into servitude. Their crest was banned, their history erased. Luna stared at him, her throat tight. And Thomas? The last living descendant, Corvin said. If he approached you tonight, he must have discovered the truth. Luna pressed a hand to her forehead. Why warn me? Corvin hesitated. Because the nobles know about the uprising. They planned to crush it before dawn, and they believe you're too sympathetic to the lower classes. The room spun. They intend to remove you, he said softly, and blame the rebels. The note, the servant's death, the noble's fear. It all snapped together like a trap closing. Luna ran down the tower steps, through the courtyard, into the throne room. If the nobles wanted to frame the uprising, they'd start by taking the coronation crown, the symbol of her authority. She burst into the hall just as 2 figures broke the display case. Step away, said Luna. They turned, not palace guards, noble loyalists. One lunged. Luna grabbed a spear from the wall. She swung the staff hard, knocking the attacker off his balance. The second charged, but she drove the butt of the spear into his ribs. They went down. She didn't wait. She snatched the crown and ran. In her chambers, Luna locked the door and examined the heirloom. The coronation crown was older than the palace itself, golden, heavy, lined with velvet. She tried it on as a child during a festival. Now she noticed a thin seam along the inner rim. Her fingers trembled as she pried it open. Inside was a hidden engraving, the crescent moon and a rising sun, the Solmer crest. and beneath it, a date, the year of the coup. Her family had hidden the truth inside the very symbol of their power. A pounding rattled her door. Princess Luna, Aldrich called. Open up. His voice was too calm, too smooth. They were coming to finish what they'd started. Luna closed her eyes for a moment, steadying her breath. Then she tucked the crown under her arm and slipped out through the servants' passageway. At dawn, the nobles stormed the throne room. Behind her were hundreds of palace staff, cooks, cleaners, gardeners, guards, people her ancestors had stolen from. Luna lifted the crown. This does not belong to me, she said, her voice carrying through the hall. It never did. A ripple of shock moved through the nobles. She turned to the crowd of servants. It belongs to the house of Solmare, and I won't be the heir to a stolen throne. A young woman stepped forward, Thomas's sister. Luna recognized the grief in her eyes, but also something steadier, something unbroken. Luna placed the crown in her hands. The nobles erupted, shouting, drawing weapons, scrambling to regain control. But Luna didn't flinch. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders in a way that made sense, not as a duty to a title, but to the truth. The uprising had begun, not against her, with her. And as the sun rose over the palace, Luna smiled to herself as she thought, they stole a crown, I returned a kingdom.
Sydney rolls over and silences the alarm on her phone. It's 4 a.m. and the thick veil of night still blankets the world outside of her window. Sighing, she stands, stretches, and dresses quickly for a long day on the water. As a conservation biologist, Sydney Blue has been working to restore the osprey population in the Chesapeake Bay region since her graduate work. In over a decade of working on the bay and its tributaries, she has observed fewer and fewer nests each spring. Her current project focuses on measuring the declining survival rates of fledglings in the population to bring awareness and funding to the problem. The work involves long hours in the field, often alone, and going toe-to-toe with the fisheries industry, who is the primary culprit contributing to the decline. Unfortunately, their representatives are backed by a billion-dollar budget, and hers, let's just say grant funds, are far from cushy. By 4:45 a.m., she's backing her small motorboat down the ramp and onto the James River. With one last check of her gear, she hops in and launches away from the pier. The first nest Sydney pulls up to check is a dead zone. The nest is situated on a tall signpost in the middle of the river. She lifts a long-handled mirror up over the edge to glimpse inside and is disappointed to see that the nest is empty, aside from a few stray feathers and a carcass. No live chicks to be seen. She records in her field journal and unfurls her map to get the coordinates for the next location. This is an unfortunate pattern that has emerged in the past decade as osprey's main food source has been overfished by commercial fisheries. Menhaden are a highly caloric and nutritionally dense fish that have historically comprised over 90% of osprey diet in the region. Unfortunately, menhaden are also prized by commercial fishermen for their use as chum fish for a higher value species like salmon. As more and more menhaden are taken by commercial fishing nets, the osprey are left to starve. Sydney has held the emaciated bodies of underfed nestlings in her hands and tracked the dwindling numbers of this majestic species. These experiences are what drive her to wake up before the sun each morning and spend long days on the water in sometimes grueling conditions, all to bring awareness to this problem. Just as she pulls her boat back into the channel to head to the next nest location, the jarring sound of a foghorn cracks through the calm stillness of the morning. Startled, Sydney turns and sees a massive ship advancing at a rapid clip toward her boat. She recognizes the ship and its crew immediately. Amongst Sydney's colleagues, Mac Mockingbird is infamous for his cold-hearted, capitalistic impact on the ecosystem. He captains the largest ship fishing vessel in the Chesapeake Bay and is the right-hand man of the corporation whose menhaden take has had an outsized impact on the osprey in the region. Driven by her disappointment at finding yet another empty nest, Sydney decides to take a chance. While she's heard all the stories about what a heartless, greedy man Captain Mac is, she wonders if she can crack his steely heart. She leaps onto her cooler for some height and waves her hands wildly in the air. Luckily, someone on the larger vessel spots her signal of distress and sends a small boat out to meet her and bring her aboard the larger ship. Feeling a bit of trepidation now that her plan is underway, Sydney accepts the crewmate's offered hand, stepping onto the deck of the shipping vessel. Soon enough, the tall, imposing form of the captain approaches. "Hello, it looks like you've run into some trouble. How can I help?" he asks. "Well, I'm a marine biologist and I'm out today conducting osprey nest surveys," Sydney says. "Is that so?" the captain asks, a wary note in his voice. "Yes, and unfortunately this morning the nestlings had all died, starved. I'm seeing it more and more lately," she says. Her face flushes as she feels the prick of tears gathering in her eyes. Captain Mac grimaces and turns toward a doorway, ushering her towards the open door. Stepping through, she enters a well-appointed office. She sits and Captain Mac settles into the leather chair opposite her. "Listen, I'm sure you've heard about me and what my crew does. You'll be surprised to know I love the bay more than anything. Being on the water is home to me." Sydney is shocked to discover that Mac has a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of ecological systems. He actually studied to be a marine biologist, but his advisor was up for a tenure track position and took the credit for Mac's work, leaving him with nothing to show for his toils in graduate school. He started working on the water as a way to spend his days in his favorite place and make enough money to pay back his student loans. Mac confesses to feeling conflicted about the path his career took and the impact his crew's activities have on the environment. He wants to make a change. Sydney invites Mac to join her next week for a nest survey. Mac accepts, excited about the prospect of working on the water and as a contributing part of the ecosystem.